Hey everybody, Radaman here. Thanks for tuning in to Kenshi Birth of a Hive episode 10. Quick recap of the rules and goals if you need it, and let's get going. So we last left off with Hela and the Haulers up here in the old Empire Watchtower, stripping some of the building materials that were left from the rubble. And I have a lot of plans for this episode, so let's get going. The first thing I want to do is to take Ron's clothing off. That came out wrong. And I'm going to send him on a little bit of an errand. So we are going to... we're going to have him switch some gear around. Alright, there we go. And now he is less encumbered. Cookie, you're going to go get his ring saber. Ring sabers weigh a little bit more than the moon cleavers. And Silvershade and Ron, you are going to go together in a new squad. We're going to call Ron and Silver. If you're wondering how I came up with that name, I have no idea how you can't figure that out, I guess. And we're going to send them down to the Shek. Why? Because the only people that will pay for Mighty Canhead are Holy Nation, United Cities, and Shek. And the United Cities and Holy Nation suck, so Shek it will be. Alright, so we're going to wait for Hela and the Haulers to get down to the base once the zone loads. If the zone loads. There we go. And while I do that, let me go over some of the tips I received from all of you. So the first one is about the storage in the research bench. The research bench has a built-in storage. Normally you would carry research items in there, like the books, these books, or in the case of doing research on farming, you would have some crops in there as well. The reason I didn't want to treat it as a storage container, the tier 1 research bench is small and cannot upgrade to a tier 2 research bench. So when you want to get tier research done, tier 2 research, you have to break down the first one. So if I filled the research bench up with stuff, it'd be a little annoying because then I have to take all that stuff out eventually. So I didn't want to have to do that. Before Ron and Silver go much further, I'm going to set them both to passive so they don't get any fights on the way to Squin and Mongrel. So I'm going to have them swing into Mongrel first and buy some research books, and then have them swing to Squin, which is a Shek city, and sell Canhead and buy more research. And hopefully they don't get attacked too much. Like Hela is right now. They're being chased. Okay, so they're being targeted. Let me just take a quick look. Everyone should be much faster than the spiders. So as long as I don't run headfirst into the spiders, I should be fine. Now we have 2 spiders here camping the water. So I'm going to run... Oh, they're being targeted again. I'm going to run around and jump in this water and start swimming back to the Hive Island. Alright, looking good so far. The next task... Oh, yeah, one of the cannibals getting away. The next task I have for myself is... to prospect the area. So prospecting uses the skill of the character that you trigger. So I triggered prospecting with Queen. And it's based off of science skill. The higher your science skill, the more accurate your prospecting. And it analyzes the local area. So my science skill is 11, so my prospector skill is 11. It shows you the area size that you prospected, the altitude, which is basically I should be more or less at sea level, what kind of environment it is. So this environment supports green crops at 100% and arid crops at 50%. The wind speed, which is like if you have wind turbines, how well they work. Water table, and the water table here is 80% everywhere. The swamp, for instance, would be like 100%. and some places in like high dry deserts would be like 0%. Fertility, which is pretty good here. Stone, which as you can see here, I have a local pocket of like okay stone. Most of the good stone is over here on the island that's far too dangerous for me to settle in. Iron, which there is none, and copper, there is one little node there. So, I did that so that I could figure out where my stone mine is going to be. And it looks like I have a 49% stone mine right here. And then I'm going to lay out a stone processor, and I'll explain all this in just a minute. And then a storage container for building materials. And then go to farming, and I'm going to put a well here and a water tank here. All right. So the purpose of all of this, if you were wondering, the stone mine allows you to mine raw stone. The stone processor turns the raw stone into building materials, and then the storage building materials can hold up to 100 building materials. Ron's being attacked again. The well will allow you to pump water from the water table and store it in the water tank. And I clustered all these things together so they all could be illuminated by one torch post, just for efficiency. But before I go any further, let me make sure. Okay, yeah. Ron and Silvershade were sort of running straight into a spider there. So I'm very glad I checked. Really soon I'm going to be out of spider territory and into screaming bandit territory. A little bit safer. If I get hit by a screaming bandit, I'm hurt. If I get hit by a spider, I'm unconscious. So I'm eager to get out of that zone. Alright, I'm going to tell all of these swimmers here to just swim full speed, don't follow one another. Another tip that I had from Pucko, and I think a few others, was that I can bash doors down. So when I discovered the Lost Library, for instance, I could bash the door down to the Lost Library. Now, I don't like to have to return back to a building more than once. It's kind of hard to remember where you've been and where you haven't. So the Lost Library surely has some chests in there that I will need to open up. And unless I have tools or better lockpicking skills, I'm not going to be able to open it up. But I suppose I can go to the Lost Library and just have to remember in the back of my head that I have to return there again. So I'm waiting for Hella to get close enough to the... Oh, we are being attacked once again, and it's by spiders. Let me wait for the zone to load. As you can see, most of the time it's... I'm not in immediate danger, and it's not urgent that I check. But I would hate myself if Ron and Silvershade died because I didn't glance over when they said that they were in danger. So I will probably always check. So I am going to pause the construction of the well because we probably don't... I don't believe we have enough building materials. Okay, could these spiders stop endangering me? Please? I feel like Ralph Wiggum saying, I'm in danger. We don't have enough building materials for both the well and the stone mine. So I'm going to do the stone mine because the stone mine will allow me to make more building materials. So Hella just transferred all of her science books. And now I can start to research some stuff. Whoa, I didn't mean to do that. So I'm going to put 2 wheat straw into the bench, 2 cacti into the bench, and 2 cotton into the bench. I'm going to start researching farming, if you can see where I'm going with this. So let's go to the farming. The prerequisite for cactus farming is wheat straw farming. So we'll get wheat straw and cactus, cooking, and baking and cotton. We're just gonna grind through a lot of the farming research right now. All right, and currently they are constructing all the things I told them to construct. And soon I will have a little bit of industry happening, which is kind of exciting. So Hellas Haulers are going to get renamed to Hive Workers. And then my hive should be named, I'm just going to call it Hive for now. What I'll probably end up doing is polling my patrons for different names for the hive and then putting that on a poll for all of you to vote on. As well as a lot of other things, like should I add fishing mod? Should I allow for non-hive based buildings and stuff like that? And let you all decide on some of the parameters of this series. So the queen is researching. Cool. And all these hive workers are constructing. At this point, I am going to retask... No, I'm not going to retask green. I'm going to retask... let me reorder this. I'm going to retask Cookie, Meat Pants, and Oboro to start to grind away at... no pun intended. Grind away at the raw stone here. They all have very low laboring skill, so as you can see, they're swinging very, very slowly. But work needs to be done, you know. Can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs. So the water tank is done, and I'm still waiting on... Okay, Meat Pants has it. We're dumping some of the extra stuff that we had so that we could build the manual stone processor. Then we don't have enough building materials to build the well yet. That's coming. And right now I'm just sort of consolidating gear onto Cookie, because Cookie has this big backpack. So Cookie will end up carrying most of the junk, for lack of a better term. Alright, so now that we have the stone processor up and running, we need to assign workers to it. So Beep, Hella, and Green are going to be assigned to stone processing, but I'm also going to keep them engineering as well. Actually, you know what, Hella, for now, I'm going to have you stand around. Pillar is a better laborer. Hella's a prince. Or I'm going to call her a princess, because despite being a hive prince, the patron is a female, so... The same is for Cookie. I guess it really doesn't matter, though. So then what we're going to do is take this raw stone and convert the raw stone into building materials, and then put the building materials in storage. That is the way this works. I'm going to make sure Ron and Silvershade are moving. Queen is researching. Everything's looking good. Thorns, I think, needs a meal. Thorns is a little hungry. So let's have Thorns run over to Beep here, and Beep will dump out some raw meat, or foul meat, for Thorns to eat. Material trader on the way to Hive. For for now, I'm just going to call myself Northern Hive. So that's pretty cool. I have a material trader coming from where, though? There should be a little white dot. Yep, there it is. That's actually the Western Hive is sending a material trader my way. Discovered ruin. That would be Ron and Silvershade. Just happened upon a point of interest. So let's switch briefly over to them and scout out this ruin. So this ruin is a ruin of old technology, and as long as I can avoid these shrieking bandits, I can snoop around the ruin, which would be good. Now, little bit of a spoiler. If you haven't played Kenshi and you don't want something spoiled, skip ahead about 30 seconds. This ruin is a post-ancient workshop. It has high-tech science books in it. If you are looking for a lot of post-ancient workshops, this area has quite a few. It's called the Grid. Okay, now I'm no longer spoiling stuff. So I sent Silvershade over here on purpose because Silvershade is a Hive Prince and will be able to level up lockpicking a little bit faster. So one way to determine at a distance if something has items in it or not, if it has an empty tag here. So I can just go ahead and click on a lot of this stuff and see if it's empty. Now I'm not going to be able to pick this lock. This one's complex and way over my level. But I will be able to pick the lower level locks. So that means I will have to come back if I want to fully clear this outpost, or this like basically dilapidated factory is more or less what it is. All right, so at this point, let me also switch back to over here. I'm switching back because wheat farming has been researched. So I'm going to have Pillar set up. Oh, actually, let me undo that. Pillar's going to set up the first wheat farm, but I'm going to hold the plus key. Plus and minus is up and down. I'm going to make sure that this is as high as the farm can go. And then Pillar is going to run over to the Queen. Queen is going to drop her backpack, and Pillar is going to pick it up. And then also pick up some of the other crops that are around. And Pillar, instead of operating the stone mine, is... Oops, I screwed up. Yep, instead of operating the manual stone processor, Hella's going to overtake that job. I know, a prince doing manual labor, who would have thought? And Pillar is going to start to build the wheat farm. And one more building material processed out of the manual stone processor, and I'll have a well, which will allow me to water said wheat farm. So now that that's operational, let me switch back to Silvershade. Silvershade does not look like he's picking a lock, which means he's done. And there's a hacksaw in here. That's useful to remove slave shackles if you can't pick your way out. Let's see. There's certainly some more stuff around here. Plate beating station. These sort of stations I very rarely see resources in. An empty metal chest. Another plate beating station. An armor plate station. But yet there's another side to this. So this is empty. This is locked at level 35. Locked at 38. This one's open. Has a iron stick in it. I'm not that interested in looting an iron stick. The benches tend to be empty. You don't tend to find stuff in the benches. So you're going to find stuff in the chests. The wheat farm just got constructed, but without a well, there's nothing to do. The wheat farm needs to be watered. So until I get a notification that the well's built, I don't really need to pay any attention back at the home, at the hive. Okay, come on. Actually, the longer he fails Ooh, so this is big. Engineering research is a very special item to find. Special because there's a limited amount of it in the world, so you should not sell it. Definitely don't sell it until you're done with all of your engineering research. Basically, the way research works is for low-level tech, you use regular books. The regular books are not outlawed by the Holy Nation, for instance. Or maybe they are. I don't think they are. And then for really high-tech stuff, you need ancient books, which are very rare and hard to come by. You usually get those scavenging high-tech ruins, which are dangerous. And then for high-tech engineering stuff, like really strong walls or really large buildings. Oh, the well just finished, so let me change my focus real quick. They can only be unlocked through engineering research. So it's very important to hold on to that engineering research until you're absolutely positively done with your engineering research tree. So Pillar, here is the order of operations. I'm going to manage the wheat farm first, the water tank second, and the well third. That means that if the wheat farm needs water, I will water it. If the well has water, I bring it to the tank, and then if there's nothing else happening, I will work at the well and generate water. And that is the order of operations I see fit. And I know it seems a little backwards that I work at the water tank before the well, but if I did it inversely, I would never really fill the water tank. Or I might, but I wouldn't purposely first carry the water over from the well. So that means if the well ever managed to fill up with water, I would try to work at the well even though it was full, and then not work, because I wouldn't be hauling the water tank. So I'm looking over here a little bit longer because I knew I was about to finish the cactus farming. So if I go to farming, cacti in this region don't grow as well as the wheat because the soil is better suited towards green crop rather than arid crop. But I'm still, I don't really care. I still am happy to grow cactus. Cactus is a pretty easy source of food. So I'm going to tell Pillar to primarily do engineering just briefly so that I can build this cactus farm. And this cactus farm is an XL farm, whereas the wheat farm is only an S, meaning the wheat farm is not going to yield very much crop compared to the cactus farm. I bought a lot more cactus because it was small and compact from the farm trader than I did wheat, because wheat is bulky and big and takes up room. Let me just speed time up a little bit here. The materials trader is on its way. It's actually going to pass Ron and Silver. And the cactus farm is built. So now I'm going to say manage the wheat farm, then the cactus farm, then the water tank, then the well. So the wheat farm is going to be the first thing to get water. It will also grow faster because it's better conditioned for this soil. Alright, back to Silvershade, who was picking a box. Open the box, and wow, I got a Masterwork Ranger. That is a higher quality. Well, so Masterwork D is the quality of the weapon, and Masterwork for crossbows is as good as it gets. So that is the best possible Ranger crossbow I can find. I can't use it, unfortunately, not due to skill, but because I don't have bolts for it. It uses regular-sized bolts, and I only have toothpick-sized bolts. And there's another hacksaw. I guess I could take that along, too. Wouldn't hurt. One good reason not to use a really phenomenally heavy-hitting crossbow is friendly fire. Until I am better armored and have a much higher precision shooting, the risk of friendly fire would be very deadly. So I tend not to use really good crossbows early on until my skill with them is my precision shooting skill is much higher. So right now it's a a really low 17, and I only avoid friendly fire 26% of the time. So I would want that number to be a lot higher. So Ron and Silvershade are further on their way, but I still had more tips, so let me go over a few more. I believe I mentioned that I didn't loot the library because I wouldn't be able to pick the locks. I might be able in Mongrel to buy some tools to help me bypass locks. Begins with Pi and Nalesh both mentioned, whoa, okay, so this is the trader that I have to trade later on. So let's talk to this caravan boss. So the caravan boss will be bringing books to me over there. So I'm not going to buy them here, but I will sell my robotic components. And my hacksaws and my crossbow parts. I think I'm also going to sell the ranger. Oh, but the shopkeeper can't afford it. Okay. And I think I'm not going to buy food from them yet because I'm getting close enough to the Fog Islands that I'll be able to buy food from Mongrel. Alright, so here's some screaming, shrieking bandits. They haven't aggroed me yet. They sort of have their own language where they scream something at you, and then if you scream the right thing back, they think that you're one of them. And if you don't, then they try to kill you. I don't usually try to interact with them. I just move along and pretend like they didn't scream at me in the first place. Alright, so now we are in the Shrieking Forest, which is scary, honestly, a little bit, because there's just going to be so many of these bandits around. The hills have eyes, my friends. The hills have eyes. They're crazed, naked, flesh-cleaving bandits swarming the hills. Yeah, not a good place to be in, for sure. Ooh, what is going up over there? I'm not exactly sure how this trade caravan... Oh, just two groups of bandits bypassing one another. I'm not sure how that caravan waltzed through this area without being harassed. But sort of what happens is... if you're not around to watch something, it didn't... It's like Schrodinger's box or cat in that way. The traders weren't really messed with walking through Obedience in the Shrieking Forest because I wasn't around to have them have things happen to them. Kind of like the Truman Show, right? When Truman was at home, all the actors hired in the shops weren't working. Nothing was really happening. Existence halted when he wasn't around to experience it. And that's kind of the way most games work. In fact, that's how a lot of graphics are rendered. They only really render a cone that you're looking at in front of you, and the things behind you are only in referenced memory. They're not actually being rendered. If you're not looking at it, you don't need to figure out what it looks like. There's some pretty cool videos of how video games are rendered in real time like that. Sort of the cones. So, for instance, this big metal piece didn't render until I got closer to it. And then you see it sort of flicker into existence. Most games will have a certain low texture for distant objects. So these hills, for instance, may be low textured. And then as I approach, it loads the higher texture stuff that I'm supposed to see when I'm up close. And then you saw this rock pillar sort of pop into existence. If I had a stronger computer, I could load these things further out. But I found that due to the strength of my computer, if I stress it too much, unfortunately, Kenshi crashes. Would not... Whoa, 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 whoa. Silver Shade. My good friend. Do not engage. I'm going to have them run separately. Ron, move. Ron, move. Ron, move. Ron, move. I was clicking furiously, but he was just not moving. Sometimes pathing is a little weird. So what was probably happening was the part of the map that I was trying to click was impassable, and Ron decided to stand still, which is a somewhat deadly thing to have happen, because now his head is significantly bleeding, and I will soon have to stop and patch him up. In fact, he's running kind of with the fog, but the fog right now are trying to chase Silver Shade. It's a bit of a mess. Once I'm in Mongrel, I can rent a bed and fix my bleeding head and leg. As long as this leg doesn't dip to the point where I'm penalized for movement speed. Right now it's a flesh wound, it's not a crippling flesh wound. Silver Shade, how about you stand closer to Ron? How close are they to Ron? Let me, I'm curious if I can stand still for a moment and have Silver Shade patch him up. I did send 2, A, so that I could carry more stuff with me, and B, so that in the case of someone getting hurt or unconscious, there was a bit of a lifeline. So, for instance, I just managed to patch up Ron's head a little bit, but I didn't want to pause and patch up more, because I'm sort of being chased. And once I'm in Mongrel, I should be fine. And we are, as you can see, just outside the gates. And the gate guards will keep us protected in a moment. As you can see, the fog are killing the bandits are killing the fog, and soon the gate guards will kill both. I won't even need to rent a bed. I belong to the Shinobi Thieves now, so I can just use one of their beds for free. I will need to can head off to Silver Shade, though. Alright, so let's go ahead and first aid Ron, so he's not bleeding slowly from the head and leg. Okay. And then Silver Shade. Let's do some business here. I am interested in selling the Ranger because it's going to be a long time until I feel safe using it. And I will buy research books. Okay, that looks good. There's yet more research books to interact with here. Now, I do have the rule that Queen has to do the recruiting, so if there are hivers here, I'm not allowed to recruit them. So I'm not even going to go into the bars. There's no point. Oh, that's funny. It's a boot trader, hiver boot trader. The irony is not lost on me. I thought he was a backpack trader, but he's not. The joke is, of course, that hivers don't have feet, so it would be like a double amputee trying to sell shoes. You know, double leg amputee, that is. Okay, so these blueprints here require me to have tech level 2, but they add a lot of good sort of furniture stuff. So I'm going to buy them. And then I'm going to buy all these research books with my the money I made from selling off stuff I scavenged for. I'm not going to encumber myself with any of this stuff, though. The building materials. Silver Shade is just on the cusp of being encumbered, so I'm not going to push him over the cusp here. What I am going to do is to pop into a bar and buy a little food because they're both kind of hungry. Let's see. Wow, that's a very ugly helmet on your head. Fortunately, it doesn't look like at least this bar didn't have any hivers anyway. I'm sort of curious if there are some, because I like to know where I could find some in the future if I needed to. So let's poke into every bar anyway. So this one has almost no one. There is a guard there, the shop guard, but he's not to be recruited. The last bar... Mongrel has 3 bars, and the last bar is over here. The buildings trader dudes are almost at my base, as you can see the little white dots here. If I was allied with them, they'd be green. If they were hostile, they'd be red. Okay, so the crazy mongrel is gonna yell at me and pretend he's a hiver or a fogman. Real cute. The guards are on high alert. I don't know exactly what's going on. Ron here is temporarily going to give Canhead over to Silvershade. Now, Canhead is still in a recovery coma, but if he wasn't, when you put someone down, they are unconscious for 15 seconds to allow you to swap sort of whoever's holding him. Now, I did say that I didn't want to combat train. I didn't want to combat train my characters. I wanted them to train more naturally. But because Silvershade is a prince and he's going to be on sort of loot runs, I'm going to have him train on these boxes. And this... Oh, materials trader has arrived. I think the lockpicking... What is this? Just wooden chests? This guard is using the other box. And I don't think I can benefit from the first box, because this has a max skill level of 10. So I need this guard to not interact anymore. But I can't stop him. He's not a subject of mine or anything. Okay, so, okay, they're calling me no hives, but that's just because they don't know of me yet. What I'm going to do is buy more research books from Queen. And then before they leave, I'll probably end up buying a lot of iron plates as well. But yeah, let's put the... Okay, they're already leaving. Cookie has... Nope. Who has the... Pillar has the backpack. Yes. Okay, so Pillar... I'm going to have you litter out a bunch of stuff and see if you can't chase down the caravan boss and buy iron plates. The iron plates will stack in the wooden backpack. It will super encumber Pillar, but that's the best way to get that stuff. Okay, so now we have a crazy amount of research, right? So let's go ahead and first do small house and then tech level 2 so that we can tech up. And then we will work towards getting a bigger research table. All right, hopefully Pillar can catch them. Silvershade. Is there... Nope, there's no guard working there now. So the max skill here is 20. So I can level my lock picking up to 20. Which is good. There is such a thing as 30, but I don't know if the 30 facility exists here. It might not. And Ron is still healing up. Okay, so let's pause, and focus back on Pillar. And see if we can't catch the caravan bosses. Somehow it looks like they run at 26 miles an hour. Pillar's gonna be hard pressed to catch them. I like how they're spouting their wonderful wares while running away from me. Alright, pillar moving at 24. I should be able to catch. The caravan boss runs faster, but the guards run at about 20. So, yep, I caught up. Good. Alright, so what I want from them is iron plates, because I can't manufacture them yet. So I bought every iron plate I possibly could. I barely move faster than these iron spiders now, because I'm so encumbered. So I gotta be careful about how I walk home. And I'm out of money, like 0 cash. But somewhat by design. Alright, Silver Shades, lockpicking, leveling towards 20. And all the while he's holding can head on his shoulders. Which is sort of funny to, like, be holding a hostage while practicing a skill. Now, I probably don't want a crazy amount of these iron plates just, like, sitting on me. So I'm going to use one of them to create a box to then store the rest of them. I just finished the small house research. I bet Queen's science skill is... Yep, she's at 22 already. She's leveling up pretty good. So now Pillar will put, or I will put, 26 of the iron plates away. And those iron plates are going to be very, very useful to allow me to add some more storage and stuff in later on. Alright, let's clean up our mess. We dumped a bunch of the... we dumped a bunch of our stuff on the ground so I could make room for those plates. So we'll clean up our mess, like I said. The wheat's coming in. The cacti are coming in as well. They're growing. Pillar does not have significant water stores built up yet. And then I'm gonna have Beep haul building materials to storage. There we go. So that this can't fill up. So we have a limited amount of iron plates, but a decent amount of them, and we're able to make building materials, albeit slowly. Beep, I think it's time for you to drop some raw fowl meat on the ground. Soon I might need to scavenge some beak things for more of that good stuff. Okay, here we are leveling up our lockpicking. I would love to continue, but we're just about ready to head on our way. So I'm going to give Mighty Canhead over to Ron again. Ron's a bit stronger. And they are going to start running south. And they're going to run towards Squin. Silvershade is now a little bit better at lockpicking than he was before. And I just I'm moving some items around to disencumber him. These guards look like they're chasing me, but no, they're just going to stand guard. Oh, a death yard has been wiped out. A death yard is a, for lack of a better term, a social group, a social structure of fog. It's called a death yard. The way the fog work is the little drones, they fight everything they see other than other fog, and if they knock you unconscious, they then carry you to a death yard. I wouldn't call it a spoiler, but graphic description coming up about the fog. So, if you're around young children, you know, have them listen intently. So the way it works is the drones knock out passerbys, and when you're unconscious, you get dragged off to a pole and tied to it. And then the fog will start to kneel and pray to you, And this also summons a Hive Prince and 4 of the Hive Prince heavy guards. They're called Fog Heavies. And they show up and consume you alive. They will eat you while you're tied to said pole. And they start with your limbs. And by the time they eat your limbs off, you generally have lost enough blood to be sanguinated and dead. That's sort of the way the fog work. There's really nothing else they do other than tie you. They knock you unconscious if they can, and abduct you, and tie you to poles, and eat you alive. That's the fog in the nutshell. Strange creatures, to be sure, and creatures to be avoided when possible. All right, so Ron is heading to the closest Shek town. So that would be Squin here. And Squin has a police station. Okay, so this is evidence of a death yard. These are what the poles look like. So if I look over here, you can see the prisoner poles. There's quite a lot of them. I don't see any fog preying right now, so I don't think they have anyone to consume. But this is what a death yard looks like. And death yards get wiped out when the mongrel guards or some other group of like-minded, capable... Oh, and here, speaking of which, is Fog Heavies and a Prince. So here's the Prince right here. Normally, all the Fogs would be naked, but the Hiver extended mod that I'm running gives them armor and stuff. So they're actually probably even tougher in this playthrough than they are normally. And then the heavies are flanking them. The Hive Prince and the heavies are fast, but you can actually walk right by them. They generally don't aggro on you. When there are princes, and here's yet another, it means that they're headed to a feast. Generally, princes, I think the way it works actually, very rarely will you see princes just randomly patrolling. Generally, when you see a prince, they're heading to a prisoner on a prisoner pole to eat them alive. There are bounties on princes, so if you manage to kill yourself a prince, you can take its head, much the way you take the meat and leathers off of a dead animal, and sell it to a merchant as a bounty. Much the way I am going to be handing Canhead over to the Shek Kingdom. Similar, but not exactly. But even shopkeepers will buy bounty heads. All right, so we are out of the Fog Islands and in DREG here, meaning that we have entered the land of beak things, the gutters, once again. So I gotta be on the lookout. I went from iron spiders to angry giraffe bird things. They both are really bad in different ways. There's some sort of camp up here, but it's probably a bandit camp. In fact, if I click a bed... Oh, it's cannibals. Oh, lovely. I left the Fog Island full of insane hiver cannibals, and I'm bypassing yet more cannibal camps. So I heard from all of you that the gamma fix was very nice. So it is 4 o'clock in the morning in game, and if you all can see crisp and clear on your poorly backlit monitors, I have done my job adjusting the gamma appropriately. If you still have trouble, I don't want to wash out the game. Usually if you raise the gamma too much, it makes daytime look terrible. But let me know if you need me to modify it a little bit more. Okay, so here are some hungry bandits. If I get too close to them, they'd ask me for food. I actually don't have food, so... But it's not like they take no for an answer. They're a little pushy. Actually, no, they're a little stabby, not pushy. Or bashy? I think bashy. Because they don't have bladed weapons, they have iron clubs. I don't know who supplies all of them with iron clubs. I'd very much like to be the supplier of said iron clubs, because there's probably more iron clubs in this universe than there are shoes. Most bandits don't even have footwear, they just have iron clubs. Well, guys, I'm just about out of time. So next episode, I plan on handing in the bounty of the can head, and then stocking up on any resources that I'm going to need to expand the hive. Once Queen is done with a lot of her current research, we might go on another recruitment drive and try to get some new hivers to join up. If you have any ideas for where to take this series in the next few episodes, like things you'd like to see, for instance, let me know. If you have any tips, tricks, or feedback, drop me a line. And if you'd like to discuss this, Discord is the place. I want to thank all of my patrons, some of which are named after my hivers so far, for supporting my channel, and I'll catch you all later. Adios.